everyone, this is Amanda Borchel-Dan.
And I'm Jessica Steinberg,
your host for Times Will Tell,
a weekly podcast from the Times of Israel. Hello, Times Will Tell listeners. It's Jessica Steinberg, and I'm here this week with Ose Oyamendan, who might correct the way I said his last name, but he might not. A Nigerian-American filmmaker based between Los Angeles, Lagos, and London. He is the director of documentary film Aswat Acherim, Other Voices. It is about very unlikely friends in Gaza and Sderot, which in many ways is one of the prime war zones of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. There are several protagonists in this story. Obviously, it's a documentary, but it also has a very strong storyline. And those are the Israeli and Palestinian activists who persevere in their friendships and their desire to find a way through the mess of this conflict that is certainly far from over. So Ose is in Israel this week for the premieres of the film in both Jerusalem and Tel Aviv at our local Cinematheque theaters. It's also on Amazon Prime, so that's certainly of interest to listeners outside of Israel. And let's just start by, I want to say welcome to you, Ose. Well, thank you for being with us on The Times Will Tell.
Thank you, Jessica. Thanks for having me. And thanks for taking your time during the holidays to do this.
Absolutely. I watched the film in two chunks over the last couple of days, and so it's very fresh in my mind. And I just said this to you before we started recording, that one of the things I kept thinking about as I was watching it was I wanted to understand what brought you to this region from Nigeria, where you're from, and as we said, you live in LA and London as well. But what first brought you to the region, and what introduced you to the story and the protagonists in it? Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. I think it's when I was growing up, I was a massive Catholic, so I'm a massive. So I know about the conflict. I read the Bible and I know, but it didn't really hit me until I was, I think, about 10 years old. And I had, where I grew up in Ibadan, the area I grew up in, there were like Jewish kids. There were Lebanese kids, Lebanese Arab kids. And we would play together, play soccer together. And we went to high school when I was 10. They were mostly 11, 12, but I was 10. And the first semester they would get back, they stopped talking to each other. They wouldn't even play together. And I was struck by it. And my mother tried to explain the conflicts to me, and that these kids are getting of age, so they think that. But I didn't understand why something on the other side of the world will affect us here. And I also started life as a journalist, and I think of myself as a writer, even when I was from 10 years old, 11, 12. So I think subconsciously I carried that story with me. And I wrote this short story about two kids who became friends playing football in Jerusalem, one from East and one from West. Now, I'd never been to Israel at that time. And I don't even think I thought I would come to Israel. It wasn't on my radar at all. And so in 2010, I went to Haiti during the earthquake. And I ran into these Israeli NGOs there. Now, I didn't know there were Israeli NGOs there. And they told me the politics of it, why they don't announce.
Why they don't make it clear that they're Israeli. I'm just explaining that for listeners.
Yeah,
right?
I think, as they told me, sometimes if they announce themselves as Israeli NGOs, maybe some people will pull out, just the whole politics of it at that time, I think. So that's what they told me. So I was staying in this hotel that was the best hotel in Haiti at that time, I try to say, because we had power for 6 hours a night. And I think we had power from 6 to 11. I think it was 5 hours actually, 6 to 11. So that was where ABC network guys were, CNN network were. So everybody tried to get their work done then. So they had all this Anderson Cooper, they were in that hotel doing their work. And so this
Right.
night was sitting down there, and they came to me and asked if they could use my computer because they've not been able to send messages home. And, I didn't think I was very approachable, so I thought it was very interesting they came to me.
That they had the chutzpah. They had the chutzpah to ask you, right?
So I said, of course, and while they were looking at it, it was like supposed to be a quick thing, but they were there for like maybe an hour or so. So we started talking. And I said, see, I wrote this short story. I've never been to Jerusalem. Can you help me with the geographical accuracy? So they read it. I'm forgetting the name of the doctor now, because one of them was a doctor. Then there was Tammy Dolgin. She's a nurse. So they read it. They said, oh, it's a great story. So what do you want to do with it? I said, well, I want to publish it. I want to try and make a film or a TV series one day about something like this, something I'm passionate about. I said, well, you know what? It's a great story, but there is another story that is true. Have I heard of Gaza? And I said, yes. I said, have you heard of Sderot? And I said, no. So, well, they're next to each other. And that's where the war is fought for the most part. And
right.
There are people on both sides that want a return to the old times when they had peace there and they were very friendly.
Right.
And they had a group called Other Voice also, and Other Voice. And this man, Ethan, who was one of the three people there, is one of them.
Oh, he was literally there in your hotel room using your computer.
Yeah. So I said, okay. Ethan, yeah. And Ethan, haha. So I said, okay. I said, I love this story. I would like to follow it. I would like to see. They said, well, they kind of publicity shy. They don't like. I said, can I come? So we communicated by email over a 10, 12-week period. And I said, okay, come. So I came and I was blown away. How close they were to each other. And they were talking on the phone to some people there. And I felt they genuinely cared about people on the other side. And then I met Nathan, who had lost his daughter in this conflict. And he had like no bitterness. It's like, I don't want some other person's daughter to suffer what I've gone through. And so I met a whole swath of people from both sides, Right. And I decided, I would love to tell this story. And that's how we started.
So that was, you're saying, right after the earthquake in Haiti. So that was 2010, 2011?
Yeah.
Okay. So 10 years ago.
Yeah. It took us a bit because when I started, it's very tough to get financing for something like this. The first couple of people that we found that wanted to finance it, wanted to influence it. So I did what a poor filmmaker would do. It's like, I have these other jobs that I'll do. So when I have enough money, I put enough money together to get a crew to come and shoot. Yeah. Because I wanted to have my very independent, my own observation. And I also decided that I want to know how true these people are.
The activists, the protagonists.
Yeah, okay. Because it's very easy to want peace until you lose something. So I wanted to see how committed they were. And I also wanted to go to Gaza. So those things make it longer. But yeah.
Right. And to get into Gaza is not easy. That's number one. And even as a foreign journalist or a foreign documentary filmmaker, I was also struck by how neutral the film was. It really felt like you got the story of the people in Sderot and the people living, the Israelis, the Jewish Israelis, and you also really got the story of the Gazans. And this was something that I also kept on coming back to. It felt to me, and this is not surprising really, that it's a relatively small group of activists on both sides.
I think, when you compare to the population or even the region where they are, it's small.
Right.
But I also think, one of the reasons why it was fascinating to me is I also felt that a lot of people get, lost in the politics of it. And there's this thing that I found, not just here, all over the world, like people on different sides of a story find a way not to talk to each other, they just stand there. And my whole thing for me was, when you take the politics out of it, it's a very strong human story, like a very strong, tragic human story. And that was why I said we will not talk politics. Even the people in Gaza, when they would talk about Hamas, I said we're going to edit those things out. Because I just felt that the moment you bring politics into it, it just becomes like this fire you can't contain. And of course, there's politics there, but my own passion was to show to people how the kind of life people live there, and how people cope with that life. And for me, why it shouldn't be. Like when you have a child, for instance, and you are not sure if you say goodbye to your child in the morning, you hug him in the afternoon again. It's like, I feel people don't know that. And when I come into Israel at the airport and they say, where are you going? And I say, I'm going to Sderot. They say, are you crazy? What are you doing, Sderot? So, and I just feel like we had to get the story of these people trying in their own little way to live a normal life in a place like this.
Right. Now, you just said, Ose, that you came to Israel, I'm sure, many times over the last decade. Obviously, you're here now as well, and you would go straight to Sderot. Is that where you was that your base for filming, for working?
Yeah, because Sderot is where this group are mostly in. I mean, they spread out around the region, around the kibbutzes there, but they are Sderot was their base, and I didn't want to be one of those people who just helicopter in and I want to feel it, and I felt I wanted to feel the heat of the whole thing and be able to talk about it, not with authority, but with some form of knowledge or
familiarity. You wanted to be familiar with.
And I did get familiar. I busted my knee actually during one of those raids there, so I got a bit familiar with it.
Oh, I was gonna say, I mean, you must have been caught in at least a rocket attack. We're going to take a quick break from my conversation with Ose Oyamendan, the Nigerian-American filmmaker whose documentary Other Voices is premiering this week in Israel and on Amazon Prime.
Hi, podcast listeners. We are excited to let you know about the next TOI at 10 in-person live event. Ahead of the upcoming Israeli elections, round 5, come to a live recording of our new limited podcast series, Paralyzed Nation. It's on Wednesday, October 19th in Jerusalem's Train Theater in the Liberty Bell Park at 8 p.m. You'll hear enlightening analysis from our TOI political experts, including editor David Horowitz, senior analyst Javier Retegur, political correspondents Tal Schneider and Carrie Keller-Lynn, and settlements reporter Jeremy Sharon. You set the agenda, and we give you answers. Tickets are 25 shekels each and free for community members. To sign up for the event and submit your questions, go to timesofisrael.com/TOI-10. That's timesofisrael.com/TOI-10.
We're back to my conversation with Ose Oyamendan, the Nigerian-American filmmaker whose documentary Other Voices is premiering this week in Israel. So can you talk about that? About staying on both sides of the fence, so to speak?
Yeah, I think it was very interesting because we tried for like a couple of years to get in and I could not. I always felt like I don't have a film without going into Gaza, So, and there's many ways to go into Gaza. You have to get the Israeli permit and then you have to get the Palestinian permit. Now I had an option. I could come in through Egypt, which I said was easier, but that is not the world of the story for me. I wanted to go because you could actually walk into Gaza. The gate was open, So I wanted to go. It was important for me to go through years to wait and go. So when I went, I had no idea that I needed a permit to go into Gaza. I thought I just needed Israeli pass to go into Gaza. So when I got there, they refused me entry, and
Because you didn't have a Palestinian permit.
yeah,
Right.
and they were justifiably angry that I didn't think this was like an enclave, like a country on its own, and I just tried to explain I didn't know, but I sat there because I was convinced I had to. This was my chance to do this. So I tried to find a connection. They were talking about football, and I've realized that a lot of them were Real Madrid fans.
Uh-huh.
I follow Barcelona. So we just started talking smack to each other about.
So you could talk about football, soccer for the American listeners. Okay, yeah.
So we're talking about soccer, like. So I think we became human. We just became normal people. We could be in Tel Aviv, we could be in Glasgow, anywhere, and then after a while, this man came. I still remember. I can still see his face. He came, and the strange thing is like they don't speak good English. I didn't speak any Arabic, but we're able to talk soccer smartly. And then this man came and he said, "I said, are you Real Madrid too?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Are you shit too?" And everybody just said, "What?" And then he walked away. Listened, then he walked away. And then they called me to go and see. So I found that he's the head of the whole place, the whole border thing. And I think he just thought I was either crazy or something. So he told me, they educated me on the way of getting into Gaza. You have to get permit, this and that. So they prepared the permit and gave it to me, and I went in. So it was, yeah.
Wow. Okay. And then you actually stayed there. You're saying at a different point or at that time?
At that point, I stayed there. I stayed in a hotel because I was there for, I don't even know if it was 5 or 6 days. I was there the first time. Yeah. So I had to see all my subjects. And yeah, it was a bit surreal to just, it was a kind of place I'd never been to, And I tell people it's tough to describe Gaza, and I don't want to get into the politics of it, but the human aspect of it. And I thought they were just like you and I, but in a different geographic and political situation. And they were kind. Some people were afraid because I also tried to go on the streets. They were afraid to talk politics or talk about their relationship with Israelis. There were even people that were subjects of the film. They were very bold people to be like saying this.
That's what I wanted to understand. They were brave and bold.
Bold to be able to say there has to be another way, And there are people that will say to me, "Yeah, put my name in. Like this is what I'm saying." But I think because I come into this as a journalist, my life started as a journalist, right? And you have to protect your subjects sometimes. And there's so much stuff we have on the edit room floor that are just amazing revelation and stories. But I also know it may not be good for them or their families. So we have to tread that a little bit gently,
To protect them in a sense. Did you come up against anyone on either side, whether in Sderot and the neighboring communities on the Israeli side or on the Gazan side, where people either threatened you or said, "I don't agree with what you're doing. This whole idea of other voices is not something that should be supported." I'm just wondering if you came up against any opposition at any point, because again, you worked on this for a long time.
Yeah, I came against a lot of opposition, but I try not to look at opposition as opposition. I look at it as people expressing their opinion. And one of the things that we do take for granted in the free part of the world is the fact that we are able to have an opinion, And it's a great thing. A lot of people died so we can have opinion, that we can speak that we can vote and do all sorts of things. So if you come to me and say, I don't agree with this, and I say, yes, it's fine not to agree with it, but do listen. I mean, watch the film, listen to the other side. And, you know, I've met people that are so, I hate to use the term left or right, that are very right, you know, and they watch the film and you see like the scales just fall, like, because they've never understood it like this. They've never seen that world like this, because that world is a very political world that people find themselves in. Like I told you, a lot of people know Sderot, a lot of people know Gaza, but all they know about that world is the few inches of print they read in the newspaper, or like the 1-2 minutes and that's it. And I wanted to be able to like show the human side of it, to be able to show people like mentally. I wanted to be able to take people into that geographical. Just put yourself there and see the way it is, and then decide what to decide. You know.
Did the protagonists in the film, did they want to be part of your documentary? Did they want their work filmed? And I imagine you got to know everyone quite well because you filmed them over, you know, a period of time. But how did they feel about it at first?
I think there was the novelty thing at first. Like this guy from, you know, filming us, like there was that. A lot of people, I would say a lot of the people we talked to wanted to tell their story. I didn't know, and I think they did not know how much of their stories they were going to tell. Because some of these people have also granted news interviews. So, and they're not like people that are looking to like tell stories like that. So they didn't really know what it is. And because we did it for a long time, so we're able to like just take a time, get all these people, and then decide what is the story, you know. And yeah, I think there were a few people that were a little bit shy about it. In Gaza, there were people that I would have loved to talk to, or I did talk to, and I felt it may not be too safe, some of the things they said. So we just lose those storylines. So, yeah. And then I had a character that I met very late, Rami Aman. And I had to make a decision because at the point I met him, we were 8 years since I first went there and 5 years since we've been shooting. Because I think we really shot from 2013 to 2018 for the most part. So I had to decide, how do I include this person? And knowing me, that means 2-3 more years. And I just felt, let's wrap it up. But I wanted to have him in it, and it was in it. He organized a bike rally, and then and then the exchange of the piano at the end. And in my head, it was just like the next wave, the next step, because
So heading towards the end of this chat that we're having, what happens next with this now? I mean, on one hand, you finished the film, you're showing the film, Amazon Prime. I imagine you're working on something else already. Is this the end of the story for you? Or did working on it bring up other storylines here in this region that you think about?
I'm actually going back to what I came to do originally, like developing a TV series about two kids that brought a town to Jerusalem. I just like this. There's something about Jerusalem that I find. It's such a rich place. It's so rich. It's so historical, and it's everything is there. And I like the little divide. So I'm working on this TV series. I'm developing this TV series about two kids who brought Jerusalem together for one day with soccer. I like the innocence of kids, I like the global nature of soccer. And I think it's another avenue to say, just take a look at what could be.
At the possibilities. Okay, so you're saying that we're going to be here together talking about your TV series in a couple of years.
Knock on wood, we should find people that will support, produce, yeah. But I think it's an amazing, for me, it's become a really great, cool story over the years because now I know Jerusalem. Now I'm able to drive around. Now I'm able to see those little nuances there. And then I'm able to bring this, my love of soccer, and these sports I found as a child, and that is global, and bring it here and just see how it brings the town. Like the whole politics, the whole drama is around it, but just for one day, for 90 minutes, everybody comes together and say, this is ours. And, yeah.
Okay. So Ose Oyamendan, we look forward to talking to you when that TV series comes out. But in the meantime, enjoy your premiere of Other Voices here in Israel, in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. I imagine your protagonists have seen the film already in Sderot and Gaza a long time ago, right? And as you said, it's on Amazon Prime, and we look forward to speaking with you again and seeing what else you'll be working on. So thank you very much for being on Times Will Tell.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to Times Will Tell from the Times of Israel, and thanks to our producer, Gilad Brownstein.
Please subscribe wherever you find your podcasts and check out our daily briefing news show every Sunday through Thursday.
Like what you hear? Consider rating us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to spread the word.
Until next week.
Shalom.